Hi there, Theresa here from theresamonroe.com, and I am burning some Palo Santo because I'm kind of in the mood. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about discernment and attachment, and it's something it's very important. There's a lot coming up right now in the collective around. By the way, I hope you're doing I hope you're doing really well. But there's a lot of anger that's in the collective currently. And it plays into, there's a lot of clearing that comes up around, and it's going to continue to clear until like mid-November timeframe. And so for a lot of people, it's got their collective rage coming up and things that are very triggering for them. So if you have, we talk about some of this in the full-length energy update, but I thought that I would pop in and drop by with this particular story because I think it's helpful to you. And for those of you that don't know, it's interesting because I almost did a video on this one. Somebody commented recently about, oh, well, you tell a lot of stories, but sometimes what people don't realize is when you're working with the angels and the ascended masters, they want you to be part of the process and figuring it out so that you get credit for it. And so they sometimes will play in puzzle pieces, or they'll answer a question with a question, and this isn't for everybody, this is for people that are really working with them a lot on that. It's a more advanced path. So, and it's okay if some people just want a direct answer to things. Or sometimes I definitely want that too. But they sometimes will answer a question with a question, or more often than not, they will tell a story. So that's something that I love, because one thing that'll happen is I'll start to ask a question about something, and before I know it, somebody else that I know who doesn't know that I've asked this question, like between my guides and myself, will start telling a story that is them, like the angels have essentially prompted them to tell the story or share that of something that happened. That's an answer for me, and that's pretty cool. Sometimes there'll be some sort of signal for me too, like if Saint Germain's going to come through with a story, like the person's eyes will turn violet. There'll be like little things that they prompt me to let me know, and it usually feels pretty good. So for some of you that are curious as to why I share stories like that, they usually are telling me what kind of stories to share. And so they asked me to share this one, and it's ironically on discernment and attachment, or attachment for that matter. So I have, sometimes in this process it takes a lot of trust to create things like these sprays. Are people going to want them? Things like that. Like, you have your own doubts in your own creative process. Like when I first created them, they said, we want you to sell them for $144 each. Now, at some point, I will probably feel more comfortable at that price point, but right now, they're at $22, and they're okay with that. That's a union number, by the way, between Jesus and Mother Mary. Not Mother Mary, but that's ironic that I said that. But anyway, between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, who are divine counterparts of the second ray of light, which is golden, yellow, and ray of illumination and divine clarity and Christ consciousness, and all that. It's funny because when that ray comes through during a healing session, most clients start laughing, and they're like, why am I laughing? It's like, yeah, they're raising your vibration through laughter. It helps clear stuff up. But back to my story, I had this spray called Allowance. It's right here. It's in light pink. And we're going to spray that. So this one is a spray that connects essentially the throat chakra and the heart chakra. So it's about right here. It's where in most places, interesting that these cards just sit right here, it's where most of the insignia of the angelics sits. So it's right over like that thymus. When it activates, sometimes you can feel it like throbbing a little bit. So it helps you to, it's the bottom portion of the infinity symbol that goes from the the third eye. It crosses at the throat chakra, goes down to the heart chakra, and comes back up. So this spray connects between the throat chakra. They keep showing me the mouth, but essentially it's about communicating from the heart. So it connects from the mouth to the heart chakra right here. And so it's essentially the higher heart chakra that it helps clear, and it brings in allowance and acceptance and things like that. So when Mother Mary came forward and said, oh, that's why her name came up with Jesus and Mother Mary. So anyway, sometimes when the vibrations are high, the left part of the brain, kind of the logical portion, will slow down a little bit. But she mentioned that she's like, hey, I'd like for you to create this spray. It helps people more speak from the heart and be in more of a place of allowance. And I was like, okay, cool. But ironically, sometimes they'll have me create it and it won't be important until a few months later. But I almost took it off the line because it wasn't selling and people weren't really interested in it. And then all of a sudden, within the last month, there was a huge amount of people that were more interested in it. And so I was kind of attached to the spray, and I thought, okay, well, this would be cool. And there's a woman that I met at a recent market, and I'm debating how to tell this story without it being accusatory of her, but it's a story of discernment, hugely for me, and I would like to think that this story, sharing it with you, would be something that you can relate to in terms of, I don't know, however you'd like to relate to it or whatever you'd like to get from this video. But the main thing that they mentioned, she walked up and I was like, I could instantly feel like her jealousy or her upset. And because sometimes working with the light can really trigger people, and that's something I'm still getting into acceptance or allowance about, is the fact that sometimes the light upsets people. So yeah, I'm gonna spray. This is my other spray that I keep for myself called the Serenity Spray, and that just recalibrates your frequency to peace. So I'm going to tell you about a little bit of an upsetting situation, and I hope that you can garner something from my vulnerability in sharing this with you. But this woman walked up, and her name was Rhea, and that is light language for, it's the first part of rays of light, so just the rays. Her name just means rays. And so I was seeing, when she looked at the lineup of sprays, I could feel her jealousy and upset. It was really a triggering moment, but she was meant to see it, because what I found out is she used to make sprays. Now, they were different. She wasn't working with the rays of light, although her name means that, and she has access to it in the future. She isn't using that wisdom consciously. And so she saw the bottle and how much she loved it, and it works with the throat chakra and the heart chakra, and the higher heart chakra. And I could see how much she really needed it, and so we sprayed her with it, and she felt a real shift. And then, she used to live on Kauai and used to make these sprays, but, sometimes when you're not operating 100% in integrity in this island, particularly in the intuitive arts, they'll kick you off, or you'll have to leave for a certain part of time. That isn't true for everybody. Some people just come here for a short period of time and then they leave. But there are certain people I've seen get kicked off. If you're violating free will choice a lot, it'll happen then too. Not saying that she was necessarily doing that, but for a number of reasons she was asked to stop making her sprays. Or she chose to. But something else was, the encounter was to help her get excited about the sprays, that she could start making them again for people. It was meant to be inspiration. But sometimes when people operate out of, they still have some lack mentality or competitive mentality, or, oh, she's doing what was my dream. And it's like, well, if you give it up, somebody else is going to pick up that contract, So if I'm spraying, or not spraying, but I'm lighting incense because I like the smell of it. I find it soothing. It's this loose stuff. But with the humidity here, it's hard to keep it lit. That's something that I miss about drier climates, or places that have air conditioning. You can keep incense burning for a lot longer. So anyways, something that they typically will tell me with trades, and I don't often do trades, although there's a lot of people that do them here, and it's for people that kind of don't value money or don't value the product enough to pay for it, are the people that I'm not allowed to do trades with. And so they warned me at the beginning of the transaction when she came forward and was like, hey, can we do a trade? And at first they were very much so in my ear stating, no, this isn't going to turn out well. And so I said, okay. But my being a little bit attached to the spray and really wanting somebody to have it, and I could tell how much she could really use it, ironically needing some of the Allowance spray myself at the time, or could have benefited from it. They said, when she would make the bottle, they kept intercepting it in like 10 different ways so that she wouldn't send it, and it was because she was creating out of ego, and a lot of it was using stuff that doesn't work well with my system. There's certain things that I won't play with because it doesn't work well with me. I just don't play with it, and because I've just not ever had really good experiences with it, so I listen to that. It's like, it's the same thing when you eat certain foods and you don't feel good from it. I'll stay away from those foods. Like, I'm not somebody who typically drinks alcohol, and I don't like the vibration of it. I don't like the entities that play with that frequency or with the people, and I'm not judging anybody who does, but for me personally, it just doesn't sit well. It makes it difficult for me to keep my frequency up and to feel good in my body. And so it doesn't resonate with my frequency too much. So every now and again I'll have some, but it's not something I do very often. And besides that, it's more fun to get into like healing meditation for me. I can get into a higher state more easily using other means that I don't know. That's just personal preference. But anyway, to continue the story, they kept intercepting in multiple different ways to not have, like, I had the go-ahead to send the spray to her, meaning that she was in alignment with having the spray, but they kept telling her not to send the spray to me, that she created, because it wasn't what I needed, and it wasn't something I was in resonance with, and she wasn't listening. And so it was just interesting. And she's like, well, I just keep not being able to send it. I said, because you're not supposed to send it. I said, listen, this is using certain things that are not compatible with me, and if you can't pick up on that, then I really don't think it's a good idea that you send me the spray. Just make a donation on my website. And it was super triggering for her in terms of further about rejection of her sprays, of her work, and what she was up to, and it's kind of too bad. But, I was like, listen, I really like what you do, but this spray just isn't for me. And please understand that. And, if you'd like, just make, a $22 donation, because, I won't even charge you for the shipping. And she got irate, and you can feel all this pressure around the head when people get that mad. And I'm like, just, okay. I was here to be triggered for something. And on top of it, really for me, all of this could have been avoided in terms of the discomfort, because I was forewarned and said, do not do the trade. She needs to pay the money for it. She needs to see the value of this. And I need to not have those triggering exchanges with others, which I've been told, I've gotten into my records, they're like, this is just the way it is for you, in terms of, sometimes there are contracts that are going to piss some people off. And I don't like that feeling. I'll be honest with you. It's not the light work I did when I was younger, with the healing sessions when I was younger for people. It was, people were more ironically receptive to things, which is kind of strange. Yeah, it was a different time. It was certainly easier with people that were a little bit more open. So, but this is a triggering time. There's a lot. It's an interesting time, because there's a lot of rage coming up, and people not feeling in control of their anger or what they're triggered by or how they're being dealt with in relationships or how they're treating others in relationships and things like that. So, oh, I have an alarm going off. So, yeah. So anyway, it's interesting. It can be really upsetting sometimes. So sometimes I can feel people's anger. My body will start shaking because they're so mad, and I'm like, oh, that sweet girl's having such a trigger. Like, but the thing was too. The package showed up on my birthday to her place, and they told me when I packaged it, they were like, I was going to write a note. I write a handwritten love note in all of the sprays. And usually when I ask, I'm like, okay, when you open the present, have like all this beautiful energy that would be really comforting for them that they need to come forward. Like usually it's like love or acceptance or something like that, and it's kind of a profound experience. And usually it's something that I receive love notes back on, and I handwrite them for each person. And for this one, I was going to write something, and they said, we need you to write something different for this one. And I said, okay. And they said, by the time she receives this, she's going to be rejecting the package. And I said, oh, that's too bad. Like I was really looking forward to have a friend that does other sprays. And they were like, there are people more in alignment for that coming. And so yeah, I wrote a different note and said in there, you're receiving this at a point in time where, you and I you're no longer wanting to receive this bottle, but please know you can hold it for a couple of days, and if your anger lowers and you decide to change your mind, if you test it and you feel better, feel free, but they had some specific wording in there, and they even further warned me. They were like, she will likely not even open the package. So if some of you, I can sense already picking up on some of the metaphors in this and the symbology, but she decided to write on the package in really nasty wording with all over the package, really nasty words, and just sent me a picture of it. And I'm just like, it's an interesting metaphor for how much she's not willing to be an allowance. And so I'm like, okay, I accept the fact that she doesn't want this. And maybe in the future she'll change her mind, and maybe not. But I'm like, is it really necessary to get nasty about it though? Like the personal attacks and things? But sometimes it happens. But again, they go back to me and they were like, we don't have to analyze her 100% and go back and remember, about being an allowance, about how much the sprays sell or don't sell, enjoying the creativity of them, and being an allowance of the fact that even allowing myself, because usually, I'll be honest with you, I don't even analyze stuff that much anymore. And I don't offer one-to-ones that analyze stuff very much, because people very quickly can get into a blaming game, particularly with people that are Blu-rays that are still working through the powerlessness paradigm, or the miscreation of the use of power, and so you can get into these power struggles versus connection, and you get one or the other. You can't really have both. And it's like Mother Theresa came forward this morning and was like, this isn't necessarily about you, but I'm just like, it's amazing that somebody who asked for the exchange and wants this bottle can be so triggered that they write nasty words all over the package and send it back. And it's like, you're rejecting love, and I'm so sorry. But anyway, I just felt guided to share this with you, this short story. It's 1919 as I'm filming this, and yesterday was an amazing birthday. I had and a friend of mine had like all these dreams like come true. She didn't even know when she was taking me on these fun adventures, and there were like 5 different dreams that came true, and one of which was getting to go stand-up paddleboarding, which I really loved and had no idea like how much fun it was and really how easy it was. But we were, there wasn't any wind. It was perfect weather showed up, and there were a number of other things I got to do. But she said, "Ooh, I want to take pictures." She showed up. Well, we were on the water, and maybe I'll show these pictures at some point. But they have almost every single ray of light in each picture she shows. She takes, like, the rainbow ray, the magenta ray, the violet ray, and I'm just like, oh my God, I've never taken so many photos asking for the rays of light to show up, and like all of them did. It was really beautiful, and something that I'll cherish, and I'll probably end up framing, because I'm just like, oh, look at all these rays showing up. And they're different from sunlight, by the way, but the rays come through the sun. So some people are like sending me photos of sunsets. I'm like, that's a gorgeous sunset, but those aren't the rays of light. The rays of light are something that you see like with the third eye that'll show up in photography, and I can generally show you what they look like. Something I like to show on my Instagram typically. So awesome. Well, I hope you guys have had a really great day, and I hope that this is something that helps you. This story I probably will end up taking down, because it's a story time and lesson in discernment, and not in a way of blaming her in any way. I can tell you that it was a very uncomfortable exchange once I was like, this isn't an alignment. And that felt really uncomfortable, but I hope this is something you can garner some experiences with, and maybe say, hey, we need some allowance. I'll spray you as well, and some serenity for you as well. So anyway, sending you guys lots of love. Hope you're doing well. If you'd like more in-depth stuff, get into the energy updates, and I'll tell you, there's the light and the dark, like, war on consciousness is real, and it's very active. So I can tell you, over the past year and a half of living on this island, it's been difficult to keep my frequency higher, and so that's very much so affected my work, and I look forward to a time that's coming soon that it's where that the contract with being able to maintain light here has come to an end, and I get to move on to more fun times. It's funny, like knowing when some of that good stuff is coming. So, and then also watching other participants delay some of that. So it's interesting when it's something that includes more than one person in the manifestation of that. So again, they're joking with me right now. They're like, allow it. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. Sending you lots of love, and we'll talk soon. And I have by the way, on my Instagram account, I have a lot of specials right now for my birthday as my gift to you, and I hope it's something that you would take advantage of. So sending you lots of love. Bye.